Absolutely.
Now that we have argued about carts for long enough, let's argue about church. Texas church to pay damages for unauthorized Hamilton production that added religious themes. The crazy part about this is I don't know if they would have gotten in as much trouble if they hadn't added the religious themes.
Well, I wanted to bring this up as like a possible censorship issue.
Yeah.
And another thing I thought was like, how can this be an infringement of copyright if they're doing transformative things to their creation that make it fair? It makes it their own thing.
Because it's not parody.
They're changing the lyrics.
It would have to be parody.
Right, with
and
parody,
adding scenes to it.
With parody, there's a certain percentage
Yeah.
of the whole that you have to change. So it's hard to say with this, like how much did they change? Because you can parody.
Yeah, but they did. But this
well,
isn't
now
a
we
parody.
can't even see their rendition of it because they had to take everything down.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was one stream of it online, and I just want to know another thing: who was the narc? Like, who snitched on this?
Could have easily been
in
shared.
Texas.
It was probably shared on. Okay, is likely shared on somebody's Facebook. Some grandma or some aunt shared it on their Facebook page, and then their uber progressive niece who checks her Facebook page only to yell at her aunt for posting Donald Trump memes, saw it and was like, not on my watch, and somehow it got back to
this. I just feel like this story is an ultimate, like, it's such a bad look because it's so like the big guy punching down at the little guy.
Yep. It reminds me of it's not as egregious as the Disney with the taking the. Did you ever hear the story about you might have been on the show when we talked about a father who tried to put Spider-Man on his son's grave?
No.
And Disney,
and they
Disney's
forced
like,
him
nope.
to change it.
They made him take it off.
Wow.
Because it's like, that's our...
Really? What do they do about tattoos on people?
I have no idea.
But I guess like their reasoning would be if we let one thing slip, then the floodgates are open
It's
for
like not leaving a
our
cart
IP
back.
to get stolen.
Also, for them, it's like they don't want it to be associated with something as gruesome as the death of a child.
Yeah, but I
mean,
still
it's
like
still
going
ghoulish and
back,
stupid on their part.
I don't understand how you can draw the line at just that.
Yeah.
And that's insane. And this, I think I read about this earlier. There was a production in Jakarta in like 2016 that it was a high school production. They just redid the Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did he get upset?
School plays are different because you're not...
Are there different laws about
Yes,
that?
but you're supposed to, if you're a school play, you're supposed to, I think, buy the copyright.
And you can't profit from it in any way.
And the copyright, as far as I've read, wasn't available when that place in Jakarta, when the school in Jakarta did it.
But was this church profiting from it? Inherently, as a church, you're a non-profit
I don't know.
True.
organization.
I mean, if they perform
and
the
any
play,
money that was made off of it was going back into the church and also presumably their charitable endeavors
so it says
elsewhere. So this is just clearly like an act of bullying, and I think it's totally motivated by
adding
the fact that
religious
they're
themes.
the fact that they're religious, and specifically the fact that they're Christian.
Yes. It is funny given that it's like a complete retelling of history, which I have to ask, just to be fair, I have no problem with the play on the outset. Like, it doesn't really bother me that they do it, but wouldn't this be some type of cultural appropriation to like take Lin-Manuel Miranda describes it as telling the story of America then using the cast of America now, which is a fine, I guess.
What does that mean?
Say because America's not just white people now. So
That's the entire point.
yes, it is.
I mean, that's just so shallow.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they are. Most people who only see race are extremely shallow.
Which is, speaking of the show House, when I mentioned Olivia Wilde earlier, Lin-Manuel Miranda had like 2 of the best guest appearances on that show.
Really?
He's great.
He's terrible.
He's great.
He was the worst thing about Mary Poppins 2.
Never
the
saw
worst movie ever made.
but you love the first Mary Poppins.
It's the best movie ever made.
So that's your bias.
Yeah. No, he was actually terrible. And he was trying to do a Dick Van Dyke character.
Okay. So it says, in a statement posted on the website for the Door Christian Fellowship McAllen Church, That is a mouthful. Pastor Roman Gutierrez apologized to the show creator Lin-Manuel Miranda, as well as producers and others involved with Hamilton, admitting that the production infringed on the rights and copyrights of many. So my other question was, like, they do Shakespeare and stuff like that. Is that because Shakespeare's in the public domain?
It's outside.
It's in the public domain?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just Disney being, like, greedy, which is to be expected. The Door Christian Fellowship McAllen Church did not ask for or receive a license from the producers or creators of Hamilton to produce, stage, replicate, or alter any part of of Hamilton, nor did we seek prior permission to alter Lin-Manuel Miranda's work by changing the music, the lyrics, deleting songs, and adding dialogue. What's funny about this is, like, every movie's a remake now, so everything is a retelling of everything else. It's just they get permission before they do so. I mean, it would be cooler if the church just came up with their own, like, so somebody said they should have just called it Washington, and just done the same play.
Obviously, they were trying to appeal to things that are popular in the mass culture and use, like, they did creatively adapt it.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel it's unfair to say they were stealing their intellectual property, because they changed the lyrics to their songs. They added things to the plot. They added scenes. I'm sure they took out a lot of things too. And it was not done for profit. Yep. I think this is just clearly motivated by, like, who has power in the culture war.
Yep. Gutierrez went on to acknowledge that the copyrights are protected by federal law. Well, that's your problem, man. You're standing for the man. Stop standing for the man, Pastor Gutierrez. The church could have tried to get a license, but it did not. Gutierrez had previously told the Dallas Morning News that he had received permission. He lied. That's not good. Shouldn't be doing.
He didn't write this, though.
I recognize as the pastor.
When I read this, I was, like, so put off because it's so manicured. It's very PR.
Oh yeah, the same way.
The learning
the
opportunity.
way he said, our ministry will use this moment as a learning opportunity about protected artistic works and intellectual property.
Fake.
Which doesn't mean anything.
Who even says that?
This guy didn't say this.
And most egregiously that they'll pay damages for this. Like, at the very least, just do the cease and desist and then call it a day. Like, let it go. Yeah. But this is clearly bullying.
Mm-hmm. He repented, and they're still like making him pay.
It's a show of power.
Yeah. This is the new proselytizing for a lot of churches. I see is like they're bowing to the mob instead of actually just, like, doubling down on what they've just, being proselytizing how you would normally. It's like now we have to flagellate.
They went and found this sermon that Gutierrez gave where he referred to homosexuality along with, I think, like, substance abuse.
He put him in the same vein as substance abuse struggles.
Yeah. Okay. And then he has to answer for what everyone at this church believes about this social issue as a public figure, when he, like, this whole thing could have been a private matter and never needed to be. They are basically being dragged out on the public stage and made to answer for like values that they don't hold and that they never claimed to espouse.
Yeah. Yep. The worst part of all of this is that they're not only are they paying the damages, then that money is going to charity, which is done as a virtue signal, because Disney does not need the money, at least not from them. But they're going to take it and give it to charity.
Oh, the mob always collects taxes.
Yes, and this is Thank you guys. We were talking recently. We're like, I don't even remember which topic we were talking about. It might have been in the FN Mecca one, but one of them was like, it's not enough that they just give that they pay that they apologize. They need to pay restitution for their thought crimes, for their how dare they behave in this way, which is the most, like, egregious part of most of them.
They had to donate the damages to South Texas Equality Project, which supports the LGBTQ community in Texas's Rio Grande Valley.
I'm sure at least 5% of that money goes to the LGBTQ community in South of whatever valley, and the other 95%
like going to people's salaries,
administrative costs.
All that BLM money went to someone's mansion or multiple mansions.
Down with the consultant class.
Literally, they are giving restitution payments to the consultant class.
Yep. It's, your society's lost when churches are like folding to struggle sessions. This is all I see.
Yep.
Like 1960s China Cultural Revolution, and I have a problem with most institutions, but to see a church go down like this and then use a PR stunt that sounds just like Olivia Wilde.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Is disgusting.
And them getting snitched on probably by someone who initially was somehow personally affiliated with the congregation,
or
feels like a Red Scare thing. It feels like
that's all they do.
Like turning in your neighbor to the Gestapo thing.
Yep, that's all they do now. You can't trust anybody.
That's and they encourage it too. They encourage you to turn your neighbor in.
I've seen instances like this where people try to expose their own family members for improprieties and like politically incorrect comments.
The last few years we saw that got accelerated. People were turning parents in or kids in if they were anywhere near January 6th, or if they weren't wearing masks, or all these things. And it's really
and to see it happen in a realm that should be as like not political, but just entertainment in religion feels like that they should be like, you should be able to get free of the shackles of those types of ideas
if you want entertainment that doesn't have that.
But that doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
I mean, but there's entertainment that has religious themes. There's there's entertainment that might not. There's entertainment that has these cultural Marxist themes in them.
And to be fair, the church did include their own take on it, right? So I guess they didn't stay out of it either. They got involved in it.
They were revisionists revised a revisionist play.
They revised a revisionist play that's and I will never get over the hypocrisy of just blatantly doing this. Like we're going to cover John Boyega tomorrow on the show, talking about like who should be cast for what role and all this stuff. And it really is just it's baffling to me why it's okay sometimes and not okay other times. There's very rarely any internal logic or actual consistency in people's opinions of these things. And the funny thing is, I advocate for a lot of things that still bother me because I don't believe that there's anything inherently wrong with the concept in general. Like when they race swap a character, the concept of that doesn't necessarily bother me, but the execution of it is almost always 99.9% of the time awful. So I have to continue to push for the concept is fine. All they have to do is do it the right way, but they never do. But because you want to remain true to whatever your own internal logic is, it's a struggle.
Well, the thing with race swapping is that it was originally framed as casting people in the most meritocratic way possible.
When Morgan Freeman,
then they let go of even the pretense
of
that it was meritocratic
every time,
and just said, well, we don't want to cast white people. What's the problem?
Every time they have ever casted Morgan Freeman or Denzel Washington or Samuel L. Jackson in a role that was not traditionally for a black character, it's because he is very, very good at his job and he's been so successful for so long. His name carries enough weight that he will bring a prestige to that role.
Yeah.
Right. So that's meritocracy right there. So it's it boggles my mind. But like I said, Hamilton is just that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.